might be watching the TMI show with Ted Rall and Robbie West filling in for Manila Chan. Are we? If you're in the live chat on YouTube or Rumble, please give us a clue, because we are operating in a very clueless space 19 minutes late. We apologize in advance for that. So do let us know if you can see us. Do you?
I'm trying to pull this up on my other.
Are we seeing anyone talking on the YouTube or Rumble?
Stormborn just said new. He just asked a question. Is this a new stream? I hope so.
Yeah, we just created a new stream. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, we got sound. We are live.
We are live.
We are live.
All right, everyone. It's alive.
Oh my
All right,
God, this is horrible.
Terrible. All right, we're still going to come out at 11 o'clock because we have Q&A show for Deprogram coming up at 12 noon. And we've got, I need that break to set up the Rumble page, Rumble Studio. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to TMI show with Ted Rall and Manila Chan. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time, unless it's like today, in which case we're on at 10:20 Eastern time. Robbie West filling in for Manila Chan because Manila had her child, her Spawn, 2 weeks ago. Congratulations to Spawn and Spawn mom alike. Let's go straight into the news. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And so people are asking what happened. Basically what happens at Rumble Studio does not like being ran twice on the same computer. It really hates it. So
yeah, it does not. It does not care for it at all. You know, I have a thought about that. You could probably create the Rumble Studio on your end and then like fire it up, and then I can take it over if you make me an admin, right? So
yeah.
No problem. By the way, I'll make you an admin here. Done. Okay. All right. So let's move on here. And okay, there's the headlines. The Education Department's Civil Rights Arm has launched an investigation into Smith College, which is an all-women's school, for allegedly violating federal sex discrimination laws by admitting trans women and allowing them to access bathrooms, locker rooms, and dorms and participate in women's sports. This is the latest college to be targeted by the agency's Office for Civil Rights as the Trump administration looks to squash policies related to students' gender identity nationwide. Kimberly Ritchie, Assistant Secretary for the Civil Rights Office, said an all-women's college loses all meaning if it's admitting biological males. Allowing biological males into spaces designed for women raises serious concerns about privacy, fairness, and compliance under federal law, she said, referring to Title IX, the federal law that bars sex discrimination. A spokesman for Smith said in a statement that it got the notice from the Civil Rights Office and the school doesn't comment on ongoing government investigations. The college is fully committed to its institutional values, including compliance with civil rights laws, the spokesperson said.
But not biology.
The investigation springs from a June 2025 complaint filed by Defending Education. That's a conservative advocacy group that raised concerns about Smith's admission policies and practices concerning locker room and bathroom access and sports participation on the basis of gender identity. We're gratified that they have an open investigation into it, said Nicole Niley, president of Defending Education. I believe very strongly in the importance of single-sex spaces, be it a boys' camp or an all-women's college, and how Smith College has been addressing the issue of gender, to me, is very troubling. It sends a very mixed message that natal males who identify as female are allowed to attend, but biological girls who identify as boys are not, she continued. Wait, is that true? There's clearly a lot of room and conversations for these issues to be decided in the years to come. I figure you might have thoughts.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically, the whole issue is, and people in the chat are asking, why Americans are hung up on this issue. People say it's because of misogyny and all this other mess. It's because you're asking people who believe in this word called science to ignore biology and embrace a lie. You're asking us to reject an abject, absolute truth that there are two genders. That's it. Man and woman, male and female. You either have external or internal plumbing. unless you're like a hermaphrodite, in which case you're self-sterilized and go with God. I mean, you can have a hermaphrodite lobby if you want to have one. But pick one. Don't care. But that's the whole issue. You're asking me to play along with a lie and deny reality, and I refuse to do that. A girls' school should be for girls. Women have a right to have a place of their own. And I don't know why it takes a right winger to come out and say that women have a right to be able to have sports, their own sports league, their own swim teams, their own schools. It's something that you're allowed to do. If you're a woman, you deserve to have those things. And men have no right in your space. And why is it incumbent on me as a right-wing fundamentalist Christian to defend women who don't even want to defend themselves?
Well, here the thing is, look, this is obviously, we've been on this show down this primrose path many times, and I'm sure we will again. But I guess I do think we should answer the question in the chat, which
Sure.
you just didn't. You didn't, which is why are we so agitated about that? And I don't think it's because it's about denying truth or whatever, or deciding what that truth is. I think it's because Americans are very very individualist people. We're not communitarian. And we tend to look at trans people as extremely otherized. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I think part of it is that, basically they haven't been a subject of national discussion, but for the last 20, 30 years at most. Before then, they just weren't. They weren't part of the conversation I remember when I'm old enough to remember LGB and there was no T added to the end, and much less a QIA plus, right? So trans stuff is new to many Americans. And I think there's a sort of sense in this country that if you have a situation or a problem, namely you identify as a sex different than you were when you were born, that's on you. It sucks to be you. I don't really, and if you make me uncomfortable, I'm going to hate you, but I'm not going to spend any time thinking about your concerns, right? So if you're a trans woman, in other words, a person who was born male but now identifies as female, whether you had the surgery or not, you do have a unique set of problems. And among those problems would be, what if I want to play sports? What team is appropriate for me to join? What if I want to go to college? Do I identify as a man enough to, a trans woman? If I was born male and I want to fully live as a woman, can I live surrounded only by other women? And then the question is, will I be accepted as a woman? There's all these huge problems that you have as a trans person. And most Americans, I think that like in other societies, there's a sense that like if there's a small group of people, a minority of people who have some kind of conundrum like that, that there's a general communitarian feeling that society overall has to roll up its sleeves and figure it out. Here, there isn't. And it's kind of like, and I'm not going to say whether that's right or wrong, but it's not part of our American culture. And I think that's why Americans are really agitated about it in a way that like maybe Europeans can't relate to.
I'm going to push back a little bit because you said I did not answer the question. I 100% did. I probably didn't answer the way that you liked, but I 100% answered the question.
Well, why are we so agitated as Americans as opposed to other people from other countries, right? That was the question.
Because you're asking us to deny abject reality. That's the whole problem. That is the issue. I mean, let me kind of point this down this way. What is a woman?
Well, that's the question here, isn't it?
A woman is a human female that has the biological capacity to bear children, breastfeed. That's not to say that every woman is able to. Some people, they're not able to. They're sterile. But everyone has the capacity. Up until about 15 minutes ago, people knew what a woman was. From the time of Adam and Eve till literally the 15, 20 minutes ago, people knew what a woman was. You have mammary glands. You're able to breastfeed. You have the potential to get pregnant and have periods. That is what a woman is. Women are people who are life givers. They are nurturers. They are the people that make society continue because women uniquely among any other group of people have the ability to create life in their bodies. That is what a woman is.
Well, I mean, but
That's the answer. That's a
but
woman.
people in other countries who are not as agitated about this issue also have the same concerns about what is real and what is not real and defining genders and sexes, right? So there's nothing that's not uniquely American. So the question was, what is it about the United States that makes this such a topic of national concern that it becomes talked about as in the as part of national political campaigns, when, let's face it, most Americans don't know any trans people at all and are probably never going to meet one. I mean, this is a very small group of people.
But
and
they
so,
have
like,
immense
why are we
political
so
power.
worried about this? And other countries aren't. They have the same exact concerns or issues or questions about, what makes a biological woman or what is a woman and all that. They, I mean, it's like, I do think this isn't what is it about America that makes this an issue? Like, I don't think flag burning, for example, would be a big issue in a lot of other countries. I think if you burned a French flag, no one, the French aren't really going to lose their shit over it. They don't care. You do you. Go burn your French flag. It's a thing here. What is it about the United States that makes it a thing here? That's the question here.
So this is actually an even easier question to answer than what is a woman. The answer is how does such a small group of people have such a massive amount of political power, and they have it through the judiciary, not the legislature? So, for example, if you put up a vote, do you want dudes to be allowed to go into your daughter's locker room?
Well, not dudes, trans women.
There's no such thing as a trans woman. You're a dude cosplaying as a woman. I deny that reality. That does not exist. If you have a dick, sorry, you're a guy. This is pretty freaking simple. There's no such thing as a trans woman. Cut off? Then you're still a dude. You can't change your chromosomes. It's just you're a dude to cut off your dick. Sorry. I mean, chromosomes are a thing. Ted, you're a man of science. You understand this better than I ever will.
Chromosomes are a thing. It's true.
Yeah, they are. And so if you are born with male chromosomes, and even if you self-mutilate yourself, then you go and then you try to make your case in the most undemocratic way possible, which is through the legal system, to force at the point of a gun my acceptance to you to be able to go into my daughter's locker room, or for you to be able to compete against my daughter for scholarships, or to say that I must accept you under the penalty of hate crimes or hate speech. No, I did not vote for this. If that's what you want, you can do it in the democratic way, have this thing called an election, make your case, and convince the majority of the American people, this is what I'm entitled to as an insane person. You're not doing that. You're going through the judiciary, which is the least democratic way possible. Sorry, that's the problem.
Well, so I guess the question here is going to be...
I mean, did that make sense? Am I making any sense here at all?
I hear you. I still think, look, so Smith College is interesting, right? So I have a little bit of experience with this, and you're like, how does Ted have experience with this? In that I went to Columbia University in the early 1980s. In 1982, my sophomore year, Barnard College, which is like Smith College, one of the Seven Sisters schools, it's all women. It's directly across the street from Columbia in New York City, introduced its experimental housing exchange program to see if men and women could live in peace side by side. Mm-hmm. There was a dorm with 540 women called BHR, Brooks Hewitt Reed, and I was one of 8 guys who got rooms in that dorm. And then there were 8 women who were from Barnard who were allowed to live over in the Columbia dorms. And so I got, I ended up on the dorm council as the male representative. I got to see firsthand, I took classes at Barnard. I lived in this 99.9% female environment. And I saw kind of like what it entails. And it has a whole set of circumstances that are different and unique just than to normal co-ed, male, female, higher education. And so, I mean, there are pros and there are cons, right? And we can get into what those all are. But the point is that it was its own set of circumstances. And I really do have, I don't know what to, I don't know what to do about this, right? On the one hand, I'm kind of like, I see where the administration and its supporters are coming from. Smith College, it's all women. So yeah, basically what does that mean? It basically means you have a bunch of young women who are either straight or gay, and that's about it. And then you have biological men, if you want to call them that, but trans women, people who were born male. Obviously, they look and present and are and act and sound different than normal women.
Because they're not women, Ted.
From cis women.
That's why.
So, right, they're different. And so the point is that, like, so that's got to be, look, the word weird is the word that comes to mind. Maybe disturbing, maybe even scary for some women. J.K. Rowling has articulated that fear very well, better than I could.
For me, one of the things that I like as a pro-life person, where I get a lot of pushback, is men do not have a right to talk to me about abortion. Like you don't have a uterus, therefore you do not have an opinion. Okay, fine. If that is true, then you cannot, out of the other side of your mouth, then say that men who dress up as women are then all of a sudden women. Because if those dudes all of a sudden have a say about women's issues, then that means I have a say about my women's issue too, which is you probably shouldn't murder your babies. So, I mean, I don't understand how you square that peg hole.
Well, I kind of feel that way about women. I don't think women should necessarily be allowed to vote on matters of war and peace, since they don't have to go to war.
I agree, and so, but I mean, that's a matter of political policy.
Right.
This is a matter of physical biology. Like, women tell me, Robbie, you do not have a uterus. Therefore, since you have a schlong, you do not have a say. But yet, if I say, well, I identify as a woman now.
Such a catchy political button that would make.
For sure. But now, if I identify as a woman, then does that mean I then at that point have a say? Think about what I just said for a second. If all it takes is what I have up here, and if 5 minutes from now I decide I'm going to be a woman now, because I want to have a say about this women's issue or any women's issue that I ordinarily am excluded from because I have a schlong. How then does that slogan work? My body, my choice, or men stay out of women's issues? Because if you can identify what a woman is, or if you can identify as what a man is, who the dusty fuck are you to tell me what I can and cannot talk about? My way is pretty consistent. It's easy. Easy is good. Why does the left make everything so complicated?
Well, okay. So now, conversely, so then I can argue this so many ways.
Oh, please.
So then there's the question of if you're, there's the question of why would a trans woman want to attend Smith College, right? Or any other all-female institution. And, one would have to ask them, right? But I can imagine it's like, well, I'm a woman and I want to fully embrace I don't want to be around men or, whatever. I will say one big problem I have with Smith is the assertion here that they don't admit biological. Let's see. The biological women, in other words, trans men, are not allowed to join. So I mean, basically, Smith College becomes like, if you say you're a woman, then you can come, but if you were born a woman, but you now identify as a dude, even though in every way, shape, or form you look like a woman, you're not allowed to come. I mean, then it becomes like, well, what is a woman? Then a woman is just basically whoever she says she is, which is, to your point, and which is weird too. I mean, I do agree that for 99.999% of human history, one of the things that human beings could agree upon almost all the time, except in the case of hermaphrodites, was that's a girl and that's a boy. Yeah. And now we're not at that point anymore. And I have compassion for people who are, suffering from whatever, gender dysmorphia or whatever. But it is it's a very strange time that we live in when up to 5% of the population claims to be trans. I'm like, that's not true.
No.
I mean, it can't be true, right?
No, of course not. It's a recruitment drive. So I mean, if you think about it this way, I gotta be careful because we're on YouTube. God, I wish we were just on Rumble. So these freaks, these mentally ill people, depend on straight people to have children that they can then indoctrinate into their death style to increase their ranks because they cannot have children themselves. So that's issue number one. Case in point, when my daughter first went into ninth grade, there was a book at the, and keep in mind this is in Kalispell, Montana, celebrating the other with the whole trans flag thing right there on the cover of the book. Basically, I remember exactly what the title was, but it is everything what you'd expect from this perversion. I got the book, I threw it in the trash right there in front of the teacher because that's what it was. It's garbage. Sorry. And that's why your school board elections matter so much, because the entire point of education is to be educated, is not indoctrination. So what does education mean? You learn science, you learn math, you learn English. You don't have some SJW just in there trying to drug your kid up with Adderall because he or she's looking out the window, and then trying to indoctrinate them into being something that they are physically not able to ever be. That's the whole issue. This isn't about sex. I like sex. I like sex a lot. I like sex so much I have kids. I'm married, been married for 20 years. Married to a black woman with big old honking hooters. I like sex. I enjoy it. But what I don't like is for the state to do its absolute best to indoctrinate kids who are already confused because they're teenagers. Teenagers are by definition stupid and retarded, and confuse the ever-living hell out of them, and then try and get them hormone therapy and stuff without parental consent that affects them for the rest of their lives.
Look, these are legitimate concerns. Look, I think with Smith, the thing is, yeah.
There's two genders and an unlimited number of mental illnesses.
By the way,
die on that hill.
We have to have some sympathy for Smith College in that also they're trying to follow the rules, and the rules keep changing politically, right? Depending on who is in the White House. So currently, the administration is saying, okay, well, so this is something that violates Title IX. But under Democratic administrations, under Biden and Obama, and for that matter, under Trump's first administration, Title IX was interpreted as protecting trans rights and would have required Smith College to admit trans women, right? So it's like, what's a college supposed to do?
Adhere to science. Ted, you're a man of science. I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Well, they have to follow the law. Go ahead, Go ahead and put me.
Natural law supersedes anything made by man. Sorry. How many genders are there? Did I lose Ted? Oh, my Lord. I asked Ted a question and it broke him. I think he is shut down. Boys and girls, can y'all still hear me? I think y'all can. Nope, Ted just dropped out. All right, boys and girls. So it is now officially the Robbie Show till we get Ted back. Now, and listen, I get what I'm saying is controversial. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be upset about what I just said. I get it. I understand that there's going to be a segment out there that's going to say, Robbie, you're being transphobic, you're not being inclusive, you're all this other stuff. I get it. I understand it. Here's where I'm going to push back on that just a little bit while Ted gets back into the show. First of all, I'm not afraid of trans people. I deny that. I deny it's even a thing. And now Ted's back. I'll ask him the question.
Okay, go ahead.
Ted, as a man of science, how many genders are there? Is there more in the human species than a man and a woman?
I think there are two.
Okay, then if me as a fundamentalist Christian could agree on this, and if you as a left-leaning communist can agree on this, then then why is it that people on your side of the political spectrum keep trying to make this issue anything other than what it is, which is a denial of physical reality? For me, that's what does it. You're never going to win me on this because you're asking me to believe a lie.
People who identify as trans are real. They are real people.
They are, but they're crazy. And so they're mentally ill. They need to be treated.
It's a phenomenon, right? And so I think what's happened. Look, this is not my world. I was never active in LGBTQ rights. All I know is, having sat on the sidelines, I've watched it, and over the years, what happened is that trans people made the case to their LGBT brethren that they were a historically discriminated against group that needed protections that were analogous to those that went into place to protect gay people from being attacked and discriminated against in the workplace and in housing and so on. And so basically they became a quote unquote protected class under federal law, right? A protected class means a class that can't be discriminated against. Like there's ages is example, a weird example of protected class. You cannot discriminate against someone under federal law for being too old. You can't fire them for being too old, but you can discriminate against someone for being too young. So there's lots of weird quirks in federal law that don't make a lot of sense. And this would be, that's how this came to be. I mean,
but no one voted for it, Ted.
I'm glad I'm not the god of trans. I don't have to decide who's trans or whether trans is real or not, because frankly, I don't fucking know.
This is one of the things where left and right, we have a lot of overlap we're able to agree on. This is one of the things that left and right need to kind of figure this out. And I think that the right probably has a better answer here. We have the majority of human history on our side. I firmly believe that if someone's mentally ill, they should be treated. They should be taken care of. They should be treated with dignity. That being said, I'm under no obligation in any way, shape, or form to change my worldview to accommodate your lie. I do not have to do that. I do not have to pretend that you're a woman or you're a guy. Just like you don't have to, if I come out tomorrow and say, Ted, I am now a trans Filipino woman.
I'll be like, good for you.
You're no obligation,
QT.
I mean, you're in no obligation, though, to play along with that lie. You can say, Robbie, dude, you're as white as the day is long, and I'm pretty sure you got a schlong because you impregnated a woman.
I mean, would I privately think you were crazy and full of shit? Yes, I would.
Well, here's the difference, though. I will publicly
but in our society, I'm not allowed to say, I guess I am right now on a podcast, but you're not allowed to really say, oh, this person's crazy and full of shit.
Why not? I just did.
Right. I'm just saying.
I literally just said
part of left-wing culture, right? Like, yeah. I mean, come on. There's prohibitions and there's things you're not allowed to say on the normal Republican right. Like, you're not allowed to say that capitalism might be evil.
It is evil. It is evil. It's purely exploitative.
Right. But most people on the right can't say that. So
they can, but they choose not to. Here's the thing.
Right. It's just like people on the left. They choose not to say that.
No, people on the left.
You know what it is? We're worried about. I'll tell you myself. We're worried about hurting people who are innocent and disadvantaged, and trans people who do suffer from mental illness at extraordinarily high rates and have high suicide rates and so on, are people who we don't want to hurt. We want the best for them. We worry about them. So we worry that, like, if we call them out and say, oh, we don't really believe your truth, then it's going to like drive them to jump off a bridge. So we don't say anything. I'm not saying that that's right, but I'm explaining, I think that's what happens. But
that's retarded, because if the most victimized group in the entire country is the American worker. So instead of getting all bent out of shape about this tranny who, by the way, can't accept themselves for who and what they are, but yet I'm supposed to accept them even whenever they can't. Meanwhile, I advocate for closing the borders and improving the education system and restoring the dignity of work. I get called a xenophobe, I get called a racist, a white nationalist, all this other stuff for advocating for the weakest people in society, which are the unborn, the unborn children, elderly people, and workers who can't fucking make a living.
Well,
And
the
there's
right
people,
is not advocating for workers, but okay.
dude, I'm on the right and I'm doing it every freaking
I
day.
know. Well, okay, you are, but you know what I mean.
Tucker Carlson is. Did you watch
Yeah,
his last show?
yeah. No, I didn't, but
I mean, it's crazy.
I know he does.
No, it is insane to me how it's becoming more and more incumbent on the right to stand up for just normal people. Meanwhile, you got the Democrats. Well, you've got to accept this tranny. If you don't, you're a bad person. And then you got Republicans just like, have you ever read the New Testament? Kevin Bacon, Senator Bacon, this fool's never read the Bible in his life. Says, no, the Bible commands that you take care of the immigrant. No, no, sir, it does not. It does not say that. But Republicans and Democrats both are able to come together on supporting every other small group and voting bloc that is there to screw over normal everyday people. But no one can come together and say, hey, maybe we should do something about wages.
Well, obviously, that's super important. We have a very short show, so we should go ahead and move on to our two remaining topics, right?
Yeah, we can. We can keep on top beating the drum about trannies. We could just revisit the crocodiles.
However,
the crocodile story is fascinating to me.
However, the next story I think is almost crocodile worthy. All right. The idol industry, which I never heard of, is an important part of Japan's entertainment culture, with idols and talent agencies dedicating significant time and resources to building relationships with fans through various channels, including events and meetups. But with thousands of idols and idol groups competing for attention, and this is, I guess it's analogous to influencers, but it's not exactly the same. Some go to, pardon?
I think they're singers, ain't they?
Not all. Some go to extreme lengths to connect with their fans. Japanese media recently reported that Harida Matsumoto, an underground idol from Wakayama Prefecture, because what happens in Wakayama stays in Wakayama, sparked a heated debate after allegedly offering her fans the chance to smell her armpits after shows. Photos of Matsumoto lifting her arms and letting men put their noses in her armpits went viral, attracting criticism from the general public. Unlike mainstream idols who have entire companies and talent agencies marketing their image to fans, underground idols like Harida Matsumoto struggle to attract as many fans as possible through whatever means necessary. They usually perform in small theaters, live houses, and shopping centers, and struggle to build communities online. Many have accused Matsumoto of crossing red lines in her attempt to cater to her diehard fans, but some believe that her desperate attempt to please her fan base highlights the struggle that underground idols have to deal with. Most of them earn less than the average office worker and have to at least maintain the illusion of being single and available while struggling to please their fans. A large part of Harida's 400,000 followers continue to support her despite the controversy around her most recent fan service, but some have criticized her for doing something that they consider disgusting.
Crazy people are going to do crazy things. I hope she uses deodorant. I guess it's no different than selling panties and stuff, right?
Yeah, in Japan they have vending machines on the street in some places that purport to sell dirty panties. I always imagine like the dirty panty factory, like Keiko, hurry up, your line's falling behind. Rub harder, yeah, or you get called in by the factory boss, like, listen, Hiyoshi, there's been some complaints from the customers that you've been bathing too much before you come into work.
Yeah.
And the panties are coming out not really as pungent as our quality standards require.
Yeah. No, what they could do is they could just import some Haitians who don't bathe and then let them wear the panties and then sell them.
Yeah, but then there's the whole cat and dog residue problem.
But that's what you're after. Like, you're after the stink.
Oh, right. Good point.
I mean, no, you're not after hygiene. You want to just be disgusting,
right? I mean,
which I mean, no. I guess one benefit of Japan, the Japanese society as a whole, just deciding to commit suicide on a national level by not having kids, you're going to weed out the freaks like this, and maybe the farmers in the rural prefectures can start having more kids because as people die off, more property will become available, and then you can start building real homes. And maybe in 150 years, Japan can be made great again after the freaks and the perverts are all gone.
Well, Robbie, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you
Please do.
like smelling your wife's armpits?
I've never smelled my wife's armpits.
No?
Never. I mean,
You should try today.
Listen, my wife and I, we do some things, but armpit sniffing and licking, those are not the body parts that typically my mouth go to.
Don't knock it till you try it.
I mean, there are other body parts that are much more malleable, squishier. that you're able to do this.
Feet, back of the knees.
No.
Analingus.
No.
You're not availing yourself of the whole menu. This is like, it's kind of like me. I always go to the restaurant and always order exactly the same thing. I at most I might go for like.
So do you eat ass, Ted? I need to know. Do you eat ass?
It has been known to happen.
Maybe I have to try it. See if the wife likes it.
Oh, she might love it.
No, typically we do the other hole.
Have you had your ass licked?
No.
It could be good too.
Yeah, no. I am of a firm belief that the ass is an outie, not an innie.
Well, you're not when you're talking about like analingus, there's no inning or outing of anything. I mean, it's just it's the outside. Unless a person has like a rocking tongue.
Listen,
we just got a donation.
Yeah, we did. The argument can be made that religion is a mental illness being indoctrinated to our children, yet is tolerated and accepted by those who find it foolish. Fair enough. You can accept the fact that religion is foolish, and I can accept that trannies are fucked in the head. So we can agree to disagree. But
human beings, look, the theme today is that human beings are weird, right? I mean, trans stuff is weird. Religion is arguably weird. Having to make money by appealing to pervert business people is weird. Having to, raise money on your podcast from donors listening to you talk about having your ass licked is weird. Human beings are weird, and licking and sniffing armpits is weird.
Now, one thing I will say, I'm probably ingesting ass juice right now because this is not my 1775 coffee. I had to cancel my subscription because funds are down and shipping costs are up. So I had to cancel my 1775 coffee subscription. So I got this coffee from
That's very sad.
It's heartbreaking. This is probably the worst coffee I've ever had in my life.
All right, well, you have to tell us what it is so we know not to get it.
Hell, I don't know.
I was recently in Ohio.
It was some Keurig.
It's fucking hard to get a good cup of coffee in the Midwest. Coffee in flyover country is fucking weak and watery, and I don't understand. This is why.
Hold on, I'll show you what I got.
They're voting Republican. Yeah.
Be right back. If y'all see this coffee, do not buy it. I'll be right back.
All right. While Robbie's doing that, I should go ahead and start teeing up the next story. By the way, I'll just do a little ad here. Oh, we might actually have an ad to read. Oh, we do. How appropriate. I'm going to go ahead and read this ad while Robbie does this.
So this is from...
Wait, hold that thought. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus. No crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom is not scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. It's for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio. Grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does.
Okay, so this is from a company called Warm Hug. Never buy this. This is a negative endorsement. I have no idea.
I never
Kizzy
heard
got
of
it.
warm hug.
I have no idea where the hell it's from. I know it deserves to go into the garbage. God, it's so bad. No, Ted, as someone who likes to eat ass, you have to tell me, does Folgers coffee taste like ass?
Folgers?
Yeah.
No. Folgers is very standard, reliable, old school. It's not a terrible cup of coffee. Not a great cup of coffee by any means, but
I mean, the problem
it's good enough. I mean, my favorite sort of generic cheap coffee is Dunkin' Donuts. If you're just gonna you just want, you're on the road, you want a strong cup of coffee. It doesn't taste bitter. It's and also you get the ground version at the store for home. It's fine. It's like it's the best generic, I think. Yeah, Starbucks, not as bad as it used to be. That's my rave endorsement there.
Yeah, it's a K-Cup because these are on sale, and we have a Keurig, and also we
those are terrible for the environment. But yeah,
I don't care. I need coffee more than a clean environment. I mean, you know my work day looks like.
True.
I would die without coffee.
I'm not saying it. I mean, look, I have a fan of mine once gifted me the Technoverm. Holy shit. It's the best coffee maker available. It's $400 fucking dollars. That's why I wouldn't buy it myself. It's automatic drip. It looks like something out of East Germany in terms of its design. They come in all sorts of colors. It has problems. Sometimes it clogs and then spills all over the counter, which sucks. But the coffee, when it works, that coffee is fucking incredible.
Well, because what we do is we have a Ninja coffee maker. So it has a little K-Cup section, and then you can take the little K-Cup out, and then you can grind beans. And that's what I use for my 1775 coffee. The problem is that bean coffee is so expensive now because Trump has managed to single-handedly destroy the one thing in this life that I still value besides sex with my wife, which is coffee.
Don't forget ass licking and armpit licking, which you're about to start later today, as you promised here on the air.
Listen, I'm more than happy to try ass licking with my wife. Armpit licking is not going to work. Titty licking, though, is quite fun. But anyway, we're just kind of...
Now, what about now with titty, you have to go for the underside. I always feel like if I were a girl, I would feel like there'd be too much concentration on the nipples and not on the underside, where the bra cuts in. Yeah. If I were a girl, that's where I'd want to be licked.
No, we've been married for 20 years. We have, I mean, those love jugs have been baptized quite thoroughly, so that's no problem.
By the way, there's been studies that say that if you do that a lot, that it makes the breasts grow more.
I could see that because Kizzy already had a rack and now it's bigger, so I can understand why. As a boob guy, which how I got married to a black woman, I don't know because they're more famous for their butts, I guess Latinos.
Oh, there's boobage in the black community.
Oh, for sure. 100%. Trust me, I know that's one of the perks, right? But God, this show's so just off the chain. If Kizzy ever sees this, I'm dead. Anyway,
don't ever tell her.
Well, the problem is that she watches the show. So
shit.
If I am AWOL tomorrow. Y'all just assume that I'm dead. Anyway,
we'll know you've been fed to the bears.
Yeah. Also, my pastor watches the show, so this is going to be even better. It's going to be a very interesting conversation at church.
Well, there's nothing that violates church doctrine, I would imagine.
No, I mean, the Bible commands you to enjoy sex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's a gift of God, so 100%. It's one of my favorite commands of the Bible. Be fruitful and multiply. Enjoy your wife. Song of Solomon. That entire book is borderline pornographic. Anyway, coffee is second only to my enjoyment of my spouse when it comes to physical pleasures in this life.
Mm.
And Trump, because of his wars and his tariffs and frankly, his ineptitude as a leader and as a businessman, has taken that away from me. Jeff Dornick, friend of the show, he has a coffee that he has launched. I've never tried it, called Supermassive Black Coffee. Mm. It's like a play on Supermassive Black Hole. If you go on the Pickaxe, you can see the ads for it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to take a look and see what the shipping is because Rumble, y'all charge way the hell too much for your shipping on your coffee.
Mm.
Now, one thing, I am going to be doing some work for Jeff, So maybe I can work into the payment arrangement. That
Ooh.
he can ship me coffee for free, and then we can test it
Yeah,
and actually do it.
I will say I do like barter deals.
Oh,
I've
there's no
had
tax.
I've had some good barter arrangements. I once did. There was a record store outside of Baltimore that I designed their logo and the storefront sign and the bag. It's on the logos on
Yeah.
the bags, everything. And anyway, they couldn't afford to pay me, and they were like, "But we'll send you." They put me on their email list for their new records, and every week, if I ever saw a record or a CD that I wanted, they would mail it to me for free.
Yeah.
So it was like that. I love deals like that.
I'm gonna talk to Jeff and see if he'll hook Robbie and Ted up with coffee. That way we could actually test it. See, is this good? Is it as good as 75? Is it better?
We could have
And
we could have a taste off.
100%. But I mean, I'm telling y'all right now, this warm hug coffee, horrible. Never buy
Fuck
it.
it. All right.
It's garbage.
Let's keep moving because we have I want to get ready for Q&A show, and we had weird stuff happen with the
Yep.
Rumble
Yeah, I'm ready
studio.
I'm
Gotta
ready
get
for
everything
breakfast.
set. All right, yeah, I need to pee and drink. I need some coffee. All this talk about coffee makes me want more coffee. Anyway,
I miss good coffee.
I'm enjoying my Hamptons Peruvian organic. It's my favorite right now.
Where do you
Okay.
get that from?
Oh, I ordered from Hampton Coffee Company online. The shipping's not too bad.
How much does
It
it
comes
cost?
out to about total. It's about including shipping. It comes about to about $18 a pound.
Oh hell, because like last time I ordered 7075 was like $28. It was insane.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
And here we
because
are razzing going against our own advertisers. But yeah, that's a lot.
it's terrible. I have
No,
to try yours.
It's ridiculous.
Look,
Yeah. Give it a shot. All right, here we go. Last story. The AI surveillance platform provider Palantir is no stranger to controversy. It brings in billions each year from controversial partnerships with groups like ICE and the IDF, something that CEO Alex Karp isn't keen on changing. In an interview at the New York Times Dealbook Summit this week, CEO Karp took it a step further. He argued that legalizing U.S. war crimes would open a whole new market for Palantir. The CEO was discussing the ongoing U.S. airstrikes against small boats in the Caribbean, the Venezuelan fishermen and so on. The Trump administration has killed 83 South American civilians in 21 known operations so far. I've heard it was more like over 120. But anyway, military actions, which many scholars and legal experts consider to be war crimes in violation of the United States Constitution. But in a hypothetical war where these strikes against innocent people were constitutional, Karp said Palantir would probably make a lot more money. Part of the reason why I like this questioning is the more constitutional you want to make it, the more precise you want to make it, the more you're going to need my product, the CEO said. So you keep pushing on making it constitutional. I'm totally supportive of that. As Gizmodo points out, Karp has never been one to shy away from his verbal support for violence. Unlike other moguls who profit off the military-industrial complex, who hide behind concepts like democracy and national security, Palantir's CEO isn't afraid to put his mouth where his money is with disarmingly bombastic and violent language. In a letter to shareholders earlier this year, Karp quoted the hawkish political scholar Samuel Huntington in arguing that the rise of the West was not made possible by the superiority of its ideas or values or religion, but rather by its superiority in applying organized violence. While this could be seen as a damning indictment of Western civilization and its violent stranglehold over the world economy, Karp positions it as a source of inspiration. Might makes right, he likes to say. In another part of his interview on Dealbook, the Palantir CEO reaffirmed his commitment to ICE, emphasizing the important role he plays in making immigrants' lives worse. I'm going to use my whole influence to make sure this country stays skeptical on migration and has a deterrent capacity that it only uses selectively, Karp said.
Yeah.
Robbie, I put this in partly to troll you because I know you don't like Palantir.
No, I'm generally against monetizing killing people.
So yet, so they're pro IDF, they're pro ICE, but they're also they're anti-migration and they're anti-illegal immigrant. What do you have to say about Palantir?
Well, if you're against immigration, you probably shouldn't start wars that cause mass refugee flows. I mean, just saying. I mean, you can say that you're against these things, but if you support a genocidal apostate, or not apostate, a genocidal, racist, apartheid nation that wages war against all of its neighbors, triggering massive amounts of refugee flows into Europe, your actions say that you're pro-immigration, regardless of what your press release says. So your actions speak louder than your words.
I would agree with that. I don't know. I mean, look, I think that I think that his company is disgusting. But that said, at least he's consistent about where he's coming from, and he's not a hypocrite.
Oh, he's 100% a hypocrite.
You think?
Well, yeah. I mean, we just talked about it. I mean, listen, as someone who is fundamentally anti-immigration, both legal and illegal, I want to do everything I possibly can to make sure that the rest of the world is as stable as possible, so that way there's less incentive for people to immigrate to my country.
Mm.
You have agency. You're able to stay in the country from which you respond to make your place better, especially if I'm not dropping bombs on you and sanctioning the hell out of you and just trying to wreck your shithole in every way, shape I possibly can. So if I want immigration to be as low as possible, it is in my interest to trade with you. It is in my interest to not sanction you. It is in my interest to help make sure that your government is as stable as it possibly can be, democratic or not, so that way you stay your third world butt where you came from.
And with that,
I mean, does that make sense?
It does. It does. It does, because that's something we've talked about. It's blowback. I don't have a lot to add to that. I just thought it was a funny piece. And we both have to go grab some food.
Yeah.
We're going to be back for a Q&A show with Deprogram. That's coming up at 12 noon in 50 minutes live on YouTube and Rumble.
Yeah.
Please check into that. Jamal and Robbie and I will be answering any and all of your questions, maybe including about our sexual proclivities, maybe not. Anyway, if the donation's high enough, anything's possible. We'll enter the idle lifestyle. Robbie, you can buy Dunkin' coffee in several locations in the Kalispell area.
Yeah.
I did not read the rest of it.
Yeah, because you can buy it at Smith's and also at Super One. So that is what we'll be doing. Just this stuff was on sale, and I now see why it's on sale. It obviously was not going out the way they wanted. And Kizzy's a rabid couponer. She's just she's always looking for the deals. Well, a lot of times something doesn't sell because it's garbage. And this coffee, it's pure slop. Not good stuff.
Fuck that shit. All right, finish it off. Never to be drunk again. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
It's like turpentine.
Bye everyone. Ciao.